Are we live? We're live. Hello, good evening. My name's Andrew Walker, and the cat's just walked in. That's good. So yeah, welcome to Woodfield Pavilion. I've taken over the live Instagram for one night only to take you through a recipe today, which is going to be a vegan paella, and I'm also going to make you a cocktail, which will be an Amaretto Sour. I'm not a professional chef, so I should make that caveat from the outset. So bear with me and don't complain too much if it's not very good. So the little bit of background on the Woodfield Pavilion. Suspect a lot of you already know and follow the community, but it is a community space in the Balham area of southwest London. It's a pavilion which is part of Tooting Bet Common, and myself and my wife Jen, who's filming tonight, my glamorous assistant, we live just off the common, so we know the pavilion very well. And my friend Pretty Dawn, who many of you will know, who is leading this new global cook-along thing. She's a friend of mine, and she has, for the last few months before lockdown, been cooking her amazing Indian food at the pavilion. So yeah, that's the background to how this came about. I think the idea behind it is that Pretty and colleagues wanted to do something for the community while we're in lockdown, while we're not able to physically meet together, that we can still do things like this that are a bit more interactive and sort of share our love of food. And that's where I come in, believe it or not. So this is the second live cook-along in the series. The first one was with a lady who Pretty cooked along with, who I believe won some cooking competition on Netflix, which is very impressive. Next week you have got Joe Lambert, who was the owner of Lambert's restaurant, which was unfortunately closed recently, but was the finest food in Balham. And tonight you've got an estate agent, so let's see how that goes. Anyway, I've got a glass of wine, so that should help, Keith Floyd style. I'm doing all right? Okay, right, so I'm going to start off, I'm going to assume that at least one person, possibly Leslie Schroeder, is going to actually cook along with me today. So I'm going to take you through the ingredients for the vegan paella. Jen, if you want to just come around slightly. So I've done most of the prep already just now, but if you haven't done the prep and you're hoping to cook along, the first two things that you need to get doing is chopping up half an onion very finely, and chopping up, this is about 3 kind of medium-sized tomatoes, nice and thin, and this is going to be, apart from the rice and the stock, this kind of forms the base of the paella. So really important. I've already chopped it. It might take you a minute or two, so if you are cooking along, please crack on with that now while I show you the other ingredients. So I do normally do my paellas with some kind of meat or fish, but the brief here was a vegetarian or indeed vegan, and I've managed to get vegan tonight. So what I've gone for as the kind of main other vegetable is artichoke. So these are from Waitrose. They're quite big and chunky actually. They're probably about 1 inch squared, and they come. What are you laughing at? They've come in like in a tin in oil, so I've drained them and given them a bit of a wash. So they're going to be there. Then I've chopped up some green beans, which I've just kind of topped and tailed. I'm trying to keep them all quite uniform in size, just so that everything cooks at the same sort of speed. And then I've got some pepper. In this case, I've got red pepper and orange pepper. And just to show you that I haven't had someone else come in and prep everything today, I will cut the pepper live. My main priority is not cutting myself on live Instagram. So what I'm doing is I'm going into batons, and they're about 1 inch thick batons, okay? Doesn't really matter which peppers you've got. It could be yellow, red, orange, even green, although I probably wouldn't choose green as my first choice for this dish.
Juliet Cooney loves artichokes.
Juliet Cooney loves artichokes. Excellent. That's good to know.
And also good live pepper chopping.
Yeah, appreciate that. From Juliet, is that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Juliet. Cheers to that. Okay, so we've got peppers, artichokes and green beans. They're the three veg that I've chosen for this particular paella. And the reason I've gone for that is I want to bring a bit of colour into the dish. So green and reds and oranges give a bit of variety. So when it's actually the finished product, hopefully it will look quite pretty. And artichokes, just because they're a bit different, they're a bit chunkier, I'm going to cook them, I'm going to put them on early because they're going to need a bit more cooking. You might have got artichokes in a jar that are smaller, like I've seen the ones in Sainsbury's are a lot smaller than this. So if you've got smaller ones, they're obviously going to cook a bit quicker. So we need to take that into account. So that's the veg. I've got a bit of garlic and some parsley, which is going to go on at the very end as a garnish. Other ingredients, so hopefully all two of you are chopping away if you haven't already. The other thing, you all right?
Yeah, sorry.
The other thing that's important to mention now, if you are cooking along, is I hope you might have already got your stock prepared, but if you haven't, get the kettle on sharpish because we need the stock ready to go. This is just a standard one of these kind of veg pot stocks. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. I think there's probably a general premise with a paella that the better the stock, the better the paella. So if you're in the habit of making your own amazing vegetable stock, that's only going to make for a better paella. But I think within reason it doesn't really matter. These I think are pretty good. So I've got that. One thing I'm going to add to my stock is...
The question then is 1 centimetre squared artichokes, will that work?
1 centimetre squared, yeah, absolutely fine. They're probably going to cook a little quicker. So maybe just keep an eye on them, or maybe I'll tell you when I cook it, but maybe put the 1 centimetre artichokes in a bit after, but I'll mention it again when we start cooking. Okay, so the stock. So the other ingredients here, one of them is saffron, which you probably have all heard of, famously known as the most expensive spice in the world, which makes me sound like a bit of a big shot that I'm including that in the recipe until I tell you that we're only going to use about 0.001 of a gram of it. So it's okay, it's not going to break the bank, but it's quite an important ingredient in a good paella because it brings colour to the dish. Can you get something like a yellowy colour? You only really need a small amount of it. I've literally got a little handful there. Now what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is authentic or correct, but this is what I like to do. I'm going to put some in the stock now, and I'm going to stir that in, and that should hopefully help the stock turn a brighter colour. I'm also going to put some in to the dish when we're cooking it live and just fry it very quickly. I've seen both uses, so I'm just going for both of them. Why the hell not? It's a Friday.
Jenna Hanks is appreciating the salmon shirt.
Thank you very much. Yeah, quite a lot of agonising over what to wear. I had a very garish floral shirt that I was considering, but I thought I'm going to get enough Mickey taking for this anyway, so, well, maybe a pink shirt will get me more Mickey taking, but try to keep that to a minimum. Okay, other ingredients before we actually get the paella pan on. Obviously, rice, the key ingredient of a paella. By the way, I'm saying paella, not paella, because I'm not pretentious and I'm not Spanish. So they're the two reasons you can call it paella. I'm going with paella.
Where's the top from?
This is from Farah, who are taking a day off from sponsoring Will Van. I don't know if anyone on the call knows Will Van from Bedford, but he actually has a $1 million sponsorship deal with Farah. I'm not sponsored by them yet. Maybe after this goes viral I will be, but yeah, it's from Farah. Thanks for asking. So the rice, bomba paella rice. I think you can get it in most supermarkets now, but if you were doing a paella and you couldn't find this, probably arborio rice, which is used in risotto, would be a good substitute. But if you I don't know if that will work, but they're basically little shorter, plumper grains of rice. If you did this paella with kind of normal long grain rice, or like rice you use in Asian cooking, it's probably going to be a disaster. Literally, just don't bother. I think it's going to be rubbish. So don't do that. And then finally, these are my seasonings. Jen, if you could just come around. So I've got extra virgin olive oil, pimento or paprika, as it's normally known in the UK, which is going to bring the smokiness to the dish. I think in a vegan paella, I think we're going to go pretty liberal with the pimenton, because normally I would use chorizo in this dish, which would bring a lot of smoky flavour, but obviously we're not doing chorizo, so pimenton, important, and then salt and pepper. And the plan will be throughout, I'm going to be kind of quite regularly dousing it with this. Okay, right, I think we're ready to get cooking. So, paella pan, if you don't own a paella pan, then you want the widest, flattest sort of saute pan that you have, because the important thing with a paella is to have the maximum amount of surface area for the rice. So if you did it in a kind of a shorter, deeper pan, the rice isn't going to cook as evenly. And one thing we're hoping to get with a paella, although I'm not going to guarantee it myself, is what they call a saccharat, probably saying that wrong, which is a kind of almost a crispy layer on the bottom. That's like the absolute dream with a paella. So the idea is with this kind of dish that you'll get that. Right. So the first ingredients I'm going to put on will be the things that I think will take the longest to cook. And basically, with all the veg, I just want to get colour into them before we add the liquid. So that's just some olive oil in the pan. So for those of you with the smaller artichokes, the first thing I recommend going in with is the peppers. Okay, so in go the peppers. Hopefully you've got a bit of a sizzle in the pan. Now, because I've got the kind of chunkier artichokes, I'm going to put them in as well now, because I want them to get a bit of browning. My first bit of salt is just going to go on the peppers. So you should hopefully have a nice bit of a sizzle in the pan, which I've got going there. So yeah, basically peppers I think are pretty much a key ingredient with a paella. They bring colour, they bring flavour. What I've often done in the past, although it's a bit of a pain, is to actually roast whole peppers in advance so they get that kind of smokiness, and then peel the skins off them. It's a bit of a faff though, and for the purposes of today, I'm not going to bother with that. But you know how peppers get a bit kind of almost sort of, they start to kind of, what's the word, not splinter, but they kind of start to almost burn a little bit. That's ideally what we're hoping to get.
You've got a question from Les in the UK. Did you say pimento is the same as paprika?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it is. It's just the anglicised, paprika is the anglicised word for pimenton. Little quiz while we're here, Jen. Okay. What is cilantro in the UK?
Coriander.
Correct. What is scallions in the UK?
Onions. Spring
Need a bit
onions.
more. Spring onions.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All those lockdown quizzes have not been wasted. All right, so I'm getting some nice smells here. So yeah, basically I'm looking for them to take on a bit of colour.
How's the wine going?
The wine's going well, it's helping me get through this. Okay, the next thing I'm putting in is the green beans. So I think green beans don't take as long to cook. We'll get them in. Any time that you feel like any of these ingredients could do with, whoops, man overboard. Anytime you think any of these ingredients could do with a bit more of a zhuzh, whether that's olive oil, salt, pepper, just whack a bit in. You know, that's my personal view with these things. At the moment, I've got a nice bit of liquid in there, and actually the artichokes had a bit of sort of the oil left on them, which is quite nice. So we'll just leave that. We want things to start to blister, that's the word I was looking for. Almost like the peppers and the green beans start to blister a bit. The artichokes take on a bit of colour.
Ollie and Jenna Hinks also said blister.
Thanks a lot, Ollie Hinks, there you go.
Jenna Hinks as well.
Quite a wordsmith. That's what you get for being a couple of lawyers, I suppose.
I moved to have some wine.
So yeah, as there's someone from Langwith College, York University here on the call, that's cheers. I never thought I'd see the day when I was at university. I basically couldn't cook at all, and I've subsequently got into it in sort of later life. It makes me sound about 80, but when I was at university, I literally couldn't cook at all. I couldn't boil an egg. my idea of cooking was turning on the oven and doing surf and turf, which was a piece of crispy chicken in the oven and a piece of fish in the oven. That was basically the limit of my cooking. But subsequently, I've got into it just as a bit of a hobby, really. Obviously, I love food. I love eating out. I've got into Asian food initially. Love Asian food, Thai, Chinese, and then Italian. But Spanish in recent years is something I've really got into. I follow the tapas revolution, which is Omar Alaboy, who's a kind of like quite a famous Spanish chef in the UK, and I've been watching his videos, so he's kind of helped me with the inspiration for this dish. Right. So at this stage, I think the veg is starting to take on a bit of colour. So the kind of core ingredients, we're getting on to the core stuff. So if you were making this paella with any other ingredients, chorizo, chicken, other veg, if it's going to be vegan, I would always say get them going, get a bit of colour into everything else, and then you're going to start building it up. So that's where the onion is going to go in now. So the onion, in we go. I've got that's half a chopped onion. And at this stage, a bit more olive oil, a little bit of salt. I'm going to go with a few cracks of pepper. And I think I'm going to do my first dabble of a bit of pimenton just to start things off. All right, so that's immediately giving me a nice smoky flavour. Give everything a bit of a stir. It's sort of starting to take a little bit of shape now. Whoops, surf's up, lost a few there. All right, so there's the onion on. Where's my wine? Excellent.
Where's your favourite paella from?
Where's my favourite paella from? Is that a question from you or someone?
Me.
From you. Oh, nice. Oh, that's a good question. Probably in when we went to Barcelona. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but there was Tom Aitkins was in the queue. Who's he's like a celebrity chef who's on like the Great British Menu. So we kind of thought it's going to be a good place if he's there. And it was actually made. It has different types of sausage in it, but it was actually made with this rather than rice, which is actually fideo, which is more like a noodle. I might mention that later if I've got some downtime. Right. So
Alana's just joined the call.
Oh, Alana, hello. Our youngest viewer, I suspect. Aged 8. Sure, she's cooking along. Okay, so now, what am I going to do now? I think now I'm going to go in with the garlic. And what I'm going to do is, just for the garlic, I don't want it to burn, I'm going to make a little well of olive oil there. Needs to be quick. And I'm going to whack the garlic. So I've got 1 clove of garlic there. This dish is going to serve probably kind of 3 people, I would say, like depending on how hungry you are. So I don't want the garlic to burn, which it will do because this is on a fairly high heat. So I just want to get it going and then mix it slightly. But now I'm going straight in. Do you know what? Actually, I'm also going to go in with, I said I was going to put a little bit more saffron in, so I'm going to do that now as well.
Your mum said hi.
Oh, hi.
Linda
Hi,
Walker.
Linda Walker in the house, making a special trip to Instagram. So there you go. So just a little bit more saffron. I'm going to put a bit of oil on that as well, just to get that going. Give it a little mix. We need the light on, don't we? Here we go. Is that better? Right, now the tomatoes are going in, okay? So that is about 3 medium-sized tomatoes, and obviously that's kind of pits and all. So there's a bit of liquid going into the dish now. And I just want the tomatoes to cook down a little bit. I think tomatoes like a bit of salt and pepper. They like a bit of seasoning, so I'm going to go in with a little bit more salt now.
Hannah Farrell and Isabel Archer.
Hello, the mother-in-law's joined, and the mother. This is ultimate pressure. And I'm going to go in with some more pimenton now. Pimenton, by the way, or paprika, you can get this from every supermarket now. That's really easy to find, and it's a really nice ingredient to have in your cupboard. Okay, so hopefully you can see we've got some quite nice colours on the go there. So I'm just going to give my tomatoes and onions a little longer to cook. So what have I got left? So all I've got left to go in now is my stock and my rice. So in terms of quantities, for this recipe I put 500 millilitres of stock and 200 grams of the bomba paella rice. In practice, I'm not going to actually put all of that in, don't want to confuse anyone, but basically the best strategy with the rice is to get, so I've actually got like 150 here for this particular paella, and what I want to do is I'm going to, rather than just dumping them all in the middle, you kind of want to cover the surface, because that's how the paella is going to cook and ultimately come. You want it to be a level surface, and apparently you're not going to have more than a fingers, the top bit of your fingers width of depth for the paella. So everything's sizzling away nicely.
And just do a shout out to Alana again.
Shout out to Alana Jenkins. Yeah.
Mentioned.
Sorry?
No, it's okay.
That's all right, yeah. Alana, are you cooking along at home? I hope you are. Right, okay. I think we're ready to go in with the rice now. So, yeah, Jen, if you just want to kind of... So what I want to do is I want to try and get an even surface here. So I'm just going to kind of spread the rice like this. Okay, if you can see how I'm doing that. So it's kind of even. And for the next, and I'm going to go in now, I'm going to season that with olive oil just to help it cook quite liberally. So what we want to do for the next, I'm going to go with a tiny bit more salt because I like putting salt in as we go. So what we're looking to do here for the next minute or two is just get the rice going. I want to try and get a bit of colour into the rice. You can give everything a stir. Don't worry if it doesn't look like much at the moment, because this rice is going to absorb all of the stock as we cook it. And what looks like nothing at the moment is actually going to get really big. So I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make with a paella is to overfill the pan, and that goes for all the ingredients. Like less is more, because so have a look at this. It's like starting to sizzle a bit. So a bit like when you do a risotto, you probably put the rice in a bit and you let it cook a bit before you add the stock. So that's what I'm wanting. I want to kind of get a bit of colour in all of the rice. So just give it a bit of a stir. Make sure that it all looks like it's taking. Nice colours. I think my artichokes are looking all right. Okay, so as I say, I don't know if we've probably been about a minute there, haven't we? So about a minute or 2 minutes of having the rice cooking without the stock in.
Dave says it needs tomato ketchup.
That's DPAF, healthy life, healthy wife, what was it? Healthy life, good mantra. Appreciate having you here, Dave. Bedford School in the house. Okay, so here's my stock. So yeah, because I had a little bit under 200 grams of rice, and I've got about, this is I think 450 mils of stock. But those are the rough amounts. So what I'm going to do now is that all of the stock is going in. Remember, I've put a little bit of the saffron in here. So now that's all going in at once. All right, that's in. We are almost done cooking at this point, because
healthy life equals happy life.
Healthy life equals happy life. Yeah, that's me all over, apart from the wine. Mind you, everything in moderation, right? So yeah, I'm giving this a bit of a stir. I'm gonna go in with just a touch more of all the seasoning, which is salt, nice bit of pepper, and a bit more paprika. Why the hell not?
You're making Andrew Amaretto hungry.
Excellent. I wish I could bring it over to you, Andre. Maybe there'll be a bit left for tomorrow. It's his birthday tomorrow.
Yep.
Early birthday shout out to Andrew Amaretto, who actually is very, very... everyone should be very grateful for his appearance on Instagram. He's a pretty elusive character when it comes to social media, so real big honour. Right, so basically I've stirred that just to mix everything together, and I'm about to tell you to leave it and not touch it again. So with that in mind, if you wanted to try and make it look a bit prettier, you might at this point want to kind of spread out whatever your star ingredients are. So in this case it's artichokes, your green beans maybe. You might want to just, thank you, you might want to just do that a little bit. Make sure that everything looks like it's even. Oh, that is boiling. Don't burn yourself. I want to try and make sure that my pan is kind of as central as possible on the hob. Okay. So with everything being as flat and even as it can be, you've seasoned it. Check I haven't left anything on the yeah, we're basically, that's now it. So whereas with a risotto, you've got to constantly be adding stock, stirring it, doing it bit by bit. Paella is the exact opposite. From this point onwards, we don't touch it, okay? I would estimate from this recipe that we're gonna leave this for maybe...
I keep flicking it.
We're gonna leave this now for, I would say, maybe probably 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. We're gonna keep an eye on it while we make a cocktail. And when I say keep an eye on it, just check that it seems to be cooking evenly. So if one bit is bubbling more heavily than the back bit, maybe just shuffle the pan a bit because you want it to cook evenly if possible. But yeah, other than that, we're literally not going to touch it now. And just keep an eye on it. With the heat, I've had this on I would say I've had it on a fairly decent whack of heat, probably certainly medium gas heat so far, because I wanted to get brown into all the ingredients. If you're finding that this, you don't want this now to start kind of bubbling too much, just want it to be a nice simmer. I think how I've got it now is perfect. I'm going to turn it down, knowing what you'll know what your cooker's like. I've turned that down now to kind of like a lower setting. I'm going to move it forward slightly, but that's it. The only thing you can do, and we'll probably do this in a few minutes, is give it a little tilt or a little shake if you think you need to, but actually we're going to leave that now, okay? So I hope people who are cooking along have followed that. I hope it was clear, and I hope it's going to taste nice. A little drink again, and get a top up actually. What are we on, the Pinot? Do you want to top up?
Mm-hmm.
So I've lucked out today because I've actually got filming me a hotshot TV producer from no less than ITV, Jennifer Walker, née Archer. She's kind of a big deal, and you wouldn't. I mean, it's quite a coup for Woodfield to get such a senior TV producer, but luckily she's legally not allowed to leave this property. So she's here, she's available. She's just being paid in wine, so thank you, Jen, for filming and reading out the comments. Right, so because this is just sitting here and there's nothing more to do for like 10 minutes, I thought I could kill the time rather than just kind of regaling you with anecdotes about 90s football, which is what I'd be doing otherwise. One of my other passions is mixology, which is cocktail making. Again, as an amateur, I should stress, but we have a lot of parties here and the cocktails generally go down quite well. It's a bit like cooking because you get to put together different ingredients, which I find quite fun as a kind of a creative outlet outside of work. So, with that in mind, I'm going to I'm going to make a espresso martini, not espresso martini, not too much booze, an Amaretto Sour. Cat's here, give the cat a little shout out. There's Billy. Let's get a few comments in for Billy, come on. He's the star of the show. Here he is. Luckily for us, he doesn't like vegan paella. He follows a strictly meat diet, don't you? Okay. So the initial, keep an eye on your paella, just see how it's going. That's perfect, I'm happy with that. Okay. So the first thing I want to say about this cocktail is that it's not vegan. So I know there's a big push for vegan stuff with Woodfield, and that's fantastic, and I'm all in favour of that. But just to make that point, this cocktail does require an egg white, which people are grossing out at, but honestly it's fine, don't worry. If you are vegan, you can make this cocktail without the egg white, but the egg white provides a lot of the kind of texture and the frothy top to it, and it won't be an Amaretto Sour without it. So apologies in advance if you're vegan and you can't put the egg white in, but there are lots of other cocktails out there that don't require egg white. Okay, so this is a very simple cocktail. There's only 3 ingredients. So Disaronno, which hopefully you all know what it is. It's sort of an almond-based liqueur, very sweet, delicious if you like it. Not everyone likes almond, but I think it's delicious. So the ingredients are that, lemon juice. The bottle is fine. If you've got fresh lemons, it's probably better, but for cocktail making, personally, I don't think it particularly matters. When I'm making cocktails with lime, like mojitos, for example, I do tend to favour fresh lime juice. I think it kind of does make an improvement, but for this cocktail, don't stress about it. It's fine to have stuff out of the jar. And the other main ingredient, important ingredient, is ice. Very, very important, because the ice brings the whole cocktail together, as it does with all cocktails. Okay, so you are going to need a little bit of kit for this, unfortunately.
So if you want to make it vegan, you can use aquafaba, essentially chickpea juice.
Amazing.
So chickpea juice, instead of the egg white, will make it vegan.
Well, that I haven't tested that, but that's a good alternative.
Ollie Hanks and Jen Hanks want to know where you get your ice from, because it looks so smooth.
Oh, thanks, yeah. I've had this flown in from Zagreb, actually, yeah. No, just ice. I put it in a fancy jar just to make me look slightly professional. So this is not essential, but I am going to put... Oops. I'm going to put some ice in. This is going to be the coupe glass I'm going to serve it in. I'm just going to put a bit of ice in there just to get that cold, but that's not essential. That's just what I'm doing. Right, so... Things you need, and it's worth investing in because they're cheap as chips. Cocktail shaker, a jigger. Is that right? Is that the right term? Jigger.
Can you do a jig?
A jigger. Yeah, a jigger and a strainer. Strainer's not essential for this. I guess in theory you could measure using something else, but I think if you're going to get into the world of mixology, it's worth spending 20 quid on a bit of kit. So, and it makes you look better as well. This in particular makes you look really cool. Okay, so a jigger will generally have a 50 and a 25ml capacity, which is perfect for cocktails. General rule of thumb with cocktails, from what I've learned, is that whatever cocktail you're making, you're generally going to have alcohol, some kind of citrus, lemon or lime juice, and often some kind of sugar element. And generally 2 parts alcohol, 1 part citrus, half a part sugar is the right combo in my experience for making cocktails. Because amaretto is so naturally sweet, I'm not going to put sugar in it, but sugar syrup you can get online is a really good investment. If you're going to get into cocktails, you need to get some sugar syrup, or gum as it's otherwise known. So I recommend that, but it's not necessary for this recipe. So 50ml, have a quick look at the paella. I'm happy with that. It's cooking a bit strong on that side. So
would you stir this?
Don't stir it. No, don't touch it. The only thing you can do, if you want to, is kind of tilt it a bit. But that's really just to kind of see what's going on. So on mine, the liquid is not evaporating as quickly on that side. So I'm actually just going to move that. You can see it's bubbling this side, which tells me that the rice is absorbing more of the liquid than on this side. So
Cruel Intent said you look like a pro.
Cheers, mate.
And Hanks family said, did you get all your cocktail knowledge from Punch?
Not quite, no. Punch parties at university were a more basic affair, and there were hygiene issues with Punch that I wouldn't possibly consider for this. You know, clean hands at all times, none of this going on back into the cocktail shaker.
Okay, cocktail.
Right, let's crack on. Okay. So I've got my jigger, 50ml, which is 1 shot of the big part of the jigger. Pour that right up to the top. Let's try and be exact.
Can you drive after this?
Well, not after a beer and 2 glasses of wine, I don't think, no. Also, I don't own a car. Apart from that, yeah, I could break into a car and drink drive, if that's what you want. Don't recommend, Alana, don't recommend that. Important message for kids there.
She's gone.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then, so half the amount of lemon juice, so 25ml. This is, by the way, this is going to make 1 cocktail, okay? Obviously, hopefully you might be making this drink in a social environment and there'll be more than one cocktail being made. Very important with cocktails, don't try and make too many in one go, because the ratios with the ice you're gonna get a worse cocktail. I would recommend maximum of 2 cocktails per shake. So you could, if you're making 2, obviously it would be 2 shots of the big and 1 big shot of the lemon juice. So yeah, keep the ratios the same, but don't do more than 2. Okay, so we've got our Disaronno, we've got our lemon juice. Now, very important with egg whites. So you can buy this in the shops in a carton already separated. I've just got an egg today and separated the yolk from the white. There you go. Is Chris watching? Chris Price Morgan? No. No. Okay, fine. Because that would freak him out, wouldn't it? So 1 egg white per cocktail here. I've given it a bit of a, because it's a bit gloopy, I've given it a bit of a shake like that with the fork. And that's going to go in. Now the key thing when you're making a cocktail that's using egg white, or maybe aquafaba, is it?
Yeah.
Is you need to get it foaming and release the proteins in the egg. So you do not put any ice in at this stage, okay? Absolutely critical. So there are going to be 2 shakes. The first shake is called a dry shake. I'm going to give it some welly, and I'll give it more welly on the second one. So I've got in the 3 ingredients so far. I'm not going to go full on Tom Cruise here. I'm going to give this a gentle shake. And what you're going to find when you open it up is that you've got foaminess, okay? So that's the egg proteins breaking down, and that's the foam that's going to give you a lovely end product, okay? Right. So you see there's not a huge amount of liquid in there. Let's keep an eye on the paella. That's looking okay. Yeah, that's looking good. So I'm starting to actually see the rice now, which is a good sign, I think, and it's looking like it's cooking quite evenly. Yep, so that's fine.
You listening to it?
I am listening to it. We're going to listen to it in a minute. Okay, I'm listening to it now on instruction. So I'm listening to it because if we want to get the saccharat, the crispy base, which I've not mastered, by the way, but that's the dream for the paella, it will almost start kind of popping and crackling, and that's you hearing the rice cook and almost burn. You almost want it to burn slightly because that gives you that yummy flavour. What are you saying?
Would there be any other vegetables instead of the artichokes that could be the main event?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the good thing about a paella is that you can pretty much put anything in it as the main event. Obviously, if we're talking vegan, vegetarian today, if we were not, you could talk about all different types of meat and chorizo. But if we're talking vegetarian, I thought asparagus might be quite nice actually. But I think within reason, you can put anything in a paella and it will still taste nice. So yeah, whatever you've got left over, just go for it. But yeah, asparagus could be a good one. Right, okay, so that's the cocktail. So there's not a huge amount of liquid in there because we're only making 1. But key thing with cocktails, in my opinion...
Is this COVID-19 friendly?
What do you mean?
Fingering the ice.
Fingering the ice. I've got clean hands, just to be clear. It's too late now. Wash my hands.
Have you got COVID?
I haven't got COVID, no. I've not done a test, to be fair, but I don't have any of the symptoms, put it that way. Right, so I've actually put quite a lot of ice in there. I think there's an argument you could almost fill it probably 2/3 with ice. The lid's going on. Make sure it's tight. So at this point we're going to do the big Tom Cruise shake. Everyone's got their own technique. I'm just going to give it a little wipe down because it's got a bit wet from the egg white. But basically, the ice, you want to shake this ice within an inch of its life because the ice is going to blend with everything else in there to make the drink cold, to dilute it a bit, which is a good thing, and then we'll strain it. So, all right, here we go. You ready? I'm not going to flip it because it'll...
Go on.
I've done that before after a few cocktails and it went everywhere. So my hands are getting really cold now. By the way, you can get, this is a metal cocktail shaker, you can get these ones as well, which I think they look really nice, but in my opinion, because the ice and the metal gets really cold, it gives you a colder drink, so I don't recommend these, just FYI. Okay. I can feel there's less ice in there now, the ice is melting. It doesn't have to melt totally, but...
Do you feel like Tom Cruise right now?
Do I feel like Tom Cruise? I'm a lot taller than him, and I'm not a Scientologist, but apart from that, yeah. Okay, so we're basically done. So I'm going to take the lid off. You sometimes get a bit in the top, so we'll give that a little shake. You can still see we've got foam. Here's my glass. This is like a coupe glass. This is probably the best kind of glass in my opinion for a cocktail.
Where's that from?
Where's that from? John Lewis, I think, is it? Yeah. Never knowingly undersold. The sponsorship deals are going to be absolutely flying in after this, aren't they? I've got Farah. I need to give a shout out to Brindisa for the rice on Hildreth Street. Multi-million-pound deal coming in from them, no doubt.
Thames Valley Water for the ice cubes.
Thames Valley Water for the ice cubes, yeah, thanks for that. Okay, so this is the strainer, which goes down with the kind of springs on the inside, and you use your index finger on the top, and it makes it's a very satisfying picture actually. So let's try and capture it. A quick sip of wine. I can hear my paella bubbling, almost starting to burn, which is good. So yeah, now we're just going to pour it. Make sure you get all the foam out. So yeah, ideally by using that one egg yolk, there we go, that's perfect. So by using that one egg yolk, it needs to just settle. But I've got a good bit of head there on the cocktail. So that's basically ready. Little garnish which I didn't put on the ingredients, but if you've got it, if you're getting into cocktails, quite a good ingredient you can get is Angostura Bitters. And I believe that might be Spanish as well, so it's on theme. So I'm just going to grab Angostura Bitters. So you can get these in most of the supermarkets now. They're generally used at the end, just to kind of garnish the cocktail and kind of make it a bit prettier. So just a couple of little drops of that.
Your love heart?
Oh, I'm not good enough to do a love heart, sorry. Okay.
And how much would this set you back in central London if we were allowed to go for a drink?
In central London...
£13.50?
Yeah, I reckon probably, yeah, that sort of level. But yeah, in Balham it's going to cost you nothing.
Free.
Really. Yeah. So cheers. Shall I try it? Do you want to try it?
Yeah.
You can't do it and... Right. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so there you go. Amaretto Sour. Okay, back to the paella.
Ooh.
Good. All right, so I hope you've been keeping an eye on your paella in the meantime. Do you want to just come in a bit close? So you can see now, if I try and give this a little tilt, like I did before, I'm not getting anything, really. So that's telling me the liquid is pretty much all dissolved, okay? I'll probably give that a few more minutes because I want to try and get the crispy bottom. I think at this stage it probably is ready, and what you can do is just kind of, if you want to, you can just kind of take a little bit out of the side to just test. There's still liquid under there. It's going to be like super hot, so I'm just going to try not to burn myself. Okay, so I don't know about yours, but the rice is cooked. I think if it's a bit al dente, a little bit, if that's your taste, then that's fine. But I'll probably give it a couple more minutes. And then what I will also do is I recommend with a paella that once you think you finish cooking it, you don't just serve it up instantly. You take it off the heat.
Tom Foley's joined.
Tom Foley in the house, another old Bedfordian.
And Suzanne and Gordon Fraser in Glasgow.
Hey, Suzanne and Gordon. Hope you're well.
When is Suzanne coming back down to Balham?
Well, exactly, yeah. Suzanne, next time you come down, this is the treatment you're going to get. Amaretto Sours and Paellas or whatever you want. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much ready. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer because I want to try and get maybe a bit of a crispy bottom and a bit of burntness. But you can basically take it off now whenever you feel like it's ready and you're happy with how the rice is cooked. Not touching it anymore, no more stock. You've not touched it for like 10-15 minutes. When you think it's ready and you're happy with it, take it off the heat. The only ingredient that I've got left was the parsley. Okay, so I've got my chopped parsley, which is a garnish. So I would take it off the heat, put the parsley all over it, which is going to add nice Spanish flavour, but also just makes it look pretty as well. And then I would recommend covering it with foil and just letting it sit for like 10-20 minutes or even however long. Like if you could make this dish in advance of a dinner party or like whatever, you don't have to eat it there and then. But yeah, I think it benefits from just resting for like 10-20 minutes at least. And then it's good to go with a nice glass of white wine as part of a tapas menu if you're really in Spanish cooking and you want to like have a bit of a tapas feast.
What other tapas would you cook? Croquette?
Is that your question?
Yeah.
God, you're putting me on the spot here. Obviously, it depends if you're doing vegan or vegetarian or not. Croquettes, they're like really hard to make. So like, yeah, good luck. Get Joe Lambert to make croquettes. I reckon leave that to the professionals. But yeah, look, whatever really.
Good salad.
Chorizo. I mean, yeah, if it's not vegetarian, chorizo and just with cooked down with sherry is delicious. You can do aubergines that are like battered and like almost like deep fried with honey. That's a really good recipe I've seen recently from Omar Alaboy. But yeah, I mean, let's just get a Spanish cookbook and do whatever. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I've still got that on the heat, but you know, finish it how you want. Garnish it with parsley, let it rest, and then enjoy it. Hope this has made sense. So yeah, just to remind everyone who's listening, who is interested, Woodfield Pavilion is a fantastic community centre in Balham. Closed at the moment for COVID-19, but when it opens again, I think they, aside from Pretty, my friend who cooks incredible Indian food on the weekends, I think, so when this is all over and you can go out again in Balham, get down to Woodfield Pavilion and Tootingbeck Common to have some amazing Indian food from Pretty. I think they also do lots of events to do with like arts and crafts, fitness. There's lots of stuff for kids as well. Yoga, yeah. So it's a really great part of the community in southwest London. This is me just doing my little bit towards it. Thank you, Pretty, for the opportunity to do this. Something a bit different for me from my day job. So it's been really fun. I hope I haven't rambled on too much. And I think on that note, I will sign off and bid you a good evening. Cheers. Do the IGTV thing yet?